Hey everyone, Cone here, back with more fan build reviews. Actually, what you're going to see is stuff that I've already recorded, and I cut there because I had a couple cars that I wanted to double check the way they were loading. So I may say something of the order of like, while we investigate that or whatever, before Pack's car here, but I have now done that and just have to record those two cars for the end. But let's get right back into it with Packbat's entry. Alright, while we're sorting that out, let's take a look at Packbat's PAW Saromies. I actually asked him how to pronounce this. Saromies is how I'm going to say it is pronounced. And what we have here is a good-looking coupe. I really like the back. I like the nice touch with the grill in the back. That looks pretty cool. The front is a little Avanti-ish, is it not? Does anybody else see that in there? Oh, I like the headlights popping out like that. That's kind of a cool touch. You know, it's almost like the headlights that pop, you know, forward. They don't really pop up, they just kind of pop forward. That's a neat look. But I gotta say, it's a little awkward looking in the front. You know, you have these round headlights, round indicators, then these just square, you know, crossed off grills, a lot of chrome in them, and then the logo in the middle. I don't know, there's just something in the front that's not sitting well with me, and I can't really put my finger on it. So the shape of the car is good. I like the back. The front, though, sadly it's just not sitting very well with me. But that is not a killer to the car, because it could have really good underpinnings, and we've seen that before. There's no engine in there. Guys, there's no engine in here. Is it in the back? It's in the back. It's a rear-engine car. It fooled me. You fooled me, Packbat. All right, we got ourselves another rear-engine competitor, and yeah, I mean it's plausible that it could be in there. So let's see what we have here. Good drivability, 38.9. Props to you. You made that mid-engine setup work. That's a tough one. Sportiness of 28, comfort of 12, prestige of 11, safety 33. The price is pretty decent. Practicality pretty low because, you know, the trunk is an engine and the back seat is an engine. So neat. Yeah. All right, let's look at the design tab. It is steel and steel. Longitudinal rear-wheel drive, 4-speed, double wishbone. It is a, what is it? A 1.8 liter V6. Tiny little V6 back there, making 125 horsepower off of two barrel carburetors. Probably a really cool sounding engine. This would be a neat car. This would be something very cool. At the test track, it was 0 to 60 in 7.6. 1602 quarter miles, so that small displacement, smaller horsepower engine kind of holding it back there. 115 top speed, very light, 1900. So I guess this would kind of be in the Carmen Ghia kind of category of car. Interesting combination. 1.1 G on the skid pad, 1.03 at top speeds, and you know that's a little bit low, and I fear that's going to struggle a little bit on the track. So let's find out. It does sound like it would be a cool sounding engine. And if you get to the finals, you do get to hear everybody's engines, so or everybody in the finals engines, because I'm going to run them all on the test track completely. But a 140.9 for this guy. 140.9. That's, again, at the higher end of the spectrum as far as the cars go. So let's see if it's in the lower end of the spectrum in price, because that kind of evens those out. It is under $10,000, so it is. So for $10,000, you could have yourself a mid-engine car with a cool V6 that is a good track budget, good track, and good track premium. So with a car that, again, you put yourself in an interesting situation with, definitely challenge yourself on this one. You've done very well in the markets, so small round of applause for that. And then the price is good with a good markup on it too, so it's profitable. Really, The only hang up I have with this car is the front end styling. Everything else about it is really cool. Now that I know that it's rear-engined, and I understand the grille in the back even more, and it now comes to mind that this car does kind of compete against things like the Corvair, and the Corvair actually is something that I had pretty much completely forgotten about, and really does fit into that Intrigue market. So thanks for, subtly reminding me of that car's existence in this era, and thanks for trying this, more bizarre, tough build. I just really wish the looks were maybe something more in line with the Corvair, and even just less grille in the front, I think, would have been the ticket. Next up, we have the Pat Gaming with the Thunder 280 GT, not to be confused with the 280Z. The Datsun body coming back once again. Interesting fixtures just on the side of this one. It's got kind of, I guess, going for a little bit of that finned look in the back. It's an interesting take for sure. Lots of fixtures in the back. Wow. You really want to make sure people know you are stopping. No doubts about it. What do we have in the front? The very long inset headlights. The nose is quite drawn out. I'm expecting there to be quite a large engine in this thing. Some big grills in there. Some interesting shaped grills. Kind of a modern design. Actually has a little bit of that Aston look to it. But it does work well with this front end. And then the whole car is just very long. Very, very long and pointy. Has a little bit of an exotic look to it. Almost like, a little bit of that Ferrari Italian design to it with the exaggerated proportions. So maybe we have ourselves another one of those entries to the more expensive, semi-exotic category of a car in this theme. So let's see. 40 drivability. Well, it's not Italian because it doesn't want to kill you. 35 sportiness. Those are good. That's a nice pairing. Good comfort, good prestige, and good safety. It's a decent cost, so it could be fairly cheap. It's very light at $19.69. Design. Steel monocoque with a fiberglass body. It is a 5-speed box on a flat plane 2.8 liter V8. So back to my Italian thing. Yeah, this is definitely kind of a exotic car with an exotic engine and an exotic looking body. Double wishbone front and rear, kind of wouldn't expect anything else from it. 214 horsepower, 6,000, right at the red line. On the test track, not the fastest to 60, but very good, 6.5. Actually, that might be around the fastest. Having a hard time remembering. 14 8/4 mile, 133 top speed. I kind of expected that top speed to be a little higher, but it handles very well to make up for it. 122 G. That would kill you. 1.22 G in cornering, and then 1.15 at speed. Yeah, I'm expecting this to be pretty quick around the track. Might we have a new fastest around the track? Let's see. 132.68 is not the fastest car we've had. It is one of the fastest cars we've had. I think maybe second place. So a quick car, but let's see how it markets. Excels extremely well in track premium and in light sport premium. Does very well in track. Does great in super hyper sport budget. So the more high end categories it does very well in. It does just extremely well in these two, however. 16,000 price, but there's no markup on that, so let me throw some on there. And it would still do very well. Alright, there we go. That is the Pat Gaming's entry, and another very, very good one for today. I really wish they hadn't ordered them in this way, because this is going to make it super tough on me. But, yeah, this is a very good car. Again, it's in this premium coupe category, which I think is a little bit easier to make a very good car in this category with than some of the other bodies. So I personally penalize it a little bit for that. However, it excels extremely well in this category. So, yeah, it's a lot to think about. Next up, we have Michael with his Tundra Grimpua. Messing up names. It's what I do. And this is, however, the base model of this car. So apparently he is claiming that his base model is stout enough to compare to our Rallye. Looks wise, it fits the part. Kind of a similar body to what we have seen in some of the other entries. And I think design wise, it's sleek, it's clean, it works, but maybe a little simple. Missing a couple of fixtures, maybe a little bit more detail in the fixtures could have been nice. But there's, an overall good aesthetic to it. Just maybe needs a little bit more detail to kind of set it into this category well. Down on the scores, we have a drivability of 14 and a sportiness of 17. I like that those values are close, but the drivability seems a little low. I'm curious to see why that could be. And then comfort 4, prestige 11, safety 26. Those are all pretty normal. Price is normal. And then we have a weight of 1,800, so a light car. Design-wise, it has a 3-liter V8 with dual overhead cam. Oh, it is a flat plane V8, 3-liter. Interesting. Very, very complicated engine up there. So, and it makes a ton of power. 7,000 RPM. Red line, 287 horsepower. This is a race motor. Looks like a normal V8, but the dual red cam V8 in 1967. So even if people didn't want this car, people would probably buy it just for this engine, huh? That is quite a thing. And then, is it 4-wheel drive? It could be. I see what looks like a transaxle there. Let's see. And then, yeah, it is longitudinal 4x4. Fiberglass body, so this is McPherson strut front and solid axle leaf in the back. That's an interesting choice. This is an interesting car overall. I am curious to see how this thing performs. Performance-wise, it does 0 to 60 in 7.3, maybe a little bit slower than you would expect from a car with that much power. 14.94 quarter mile, 141 top speed is quite fast. Cornering, though, it looks like it is struggling. 1.06, 1.03. I think that there is maybe an issue with the tires being a little too small on this car and hurting it around the track. Regardless of that, we need to look at how it does around the track. So let's see. And we have a time of 1 minute 38.62. So it does okay. I, again, think it could do much better. And I don't know. This is a very good build for the base model car, and I really wish we could see something that is exactly like this car, except rallyified up, race card up for the street. But let's look at the market tab. Oh, struggling a lot in the markets. It's hitting the categories that we mentioned. However, it is failing to basically sell or be competitive in those markets. Once again, all of the qualities of it are quite good, just struggling for grip around the track, and that hurts its sportiness score a lot. I don't remember what it was. What was it? It is, 17.3 sportiness with a 14 drivability. Those two scores are just not quite good enough to please the buyers in this market. So although you are definitely on the right track, this car just kind of falls short in the performance category. But thank you for your entry, and I look forward to more entries from you in the future as we do more fan build competitions. Next up, we have an entry from Dinus, or maybe Dinus, maybe Dennis, I'm not sure. And it is the Reverse Sport, and another one on this body that we are getting very familiar with, but this one I really enjoy the looks of it. Good detail in the front, very Rallye looking with the fog lights and whatnot. And I like the little scoops in the front, or vents in the front, I mean. Nice wide body look. Kind of reminds me of a Escort rally car. And then the back, using the square taillights. I like that a lot with the spoiler. And yeah, I mean, it honestly, as we near the end of this competition, a lot of them are starting to blend together a little bit, but I think this overall design is one of my favorites. I do quite like it. It looks very sporty, and it looks very Rallye-esque. Stats-wise, let's see. Drivability 27, sportiness 30, so this thing is probably set up track-wise. 6.8 comfort, 15, 28, decent price. 1,800 pounds. It is handmade aluminum bodied, so there's some of that weight savings. McPherson front, semi-trailing arm in the back. Inline 4. Wow, that's surprising for as good of the prestige as it had. A cast iron dual overhead cam inline 4 2-liter, but that is making 191 horsepower with DCOE. Aha! There's your power makers. Very cool looking engine, and it is obviously performing very well. Alrighty, well, let's see how well it is performing. 7.7 to 60, 15.7 quarter mile, 123 top speed, and on the track with a 138.6, one of the better times, I think, with a 4-cylinder. 138.65. 1.1G, 1.07, so maybe struggling a little bit for grip. I am surprised by that. It does have decently wide tires on there, 10-inch rims, but 175s front and back. Maybe could have had some wider tires on there. It does have a lot of fender and is using most of it, but has a lot of offset too. So maybe a little bit more tire under there could have helped. Marketing-wise, 12.2 on the price. And kind of the Track Premium Light Sport combination that we've seen a lot of, and it does pretty well on those. I really want to say the only thing kind of holding this car back is the lack of grip. It could have used maybe a little bit more grip under there to really excel it in its track and Track Premium stuff, and would have had a better time on the track. Also, it had no markup, so we would have to put it up a little bit, but it still does okay. Actually, it still does pretty good. It still does pretty good in the marketing department. So this one, yeah, this one's a tough one for me because I really like the looks of it, and I like the engine. It's a cool engine in this thing. That you know, high-strung 4-cylinder with DCOEs on it. Very cool setup, but struggling a little bit with its performance. It's got the looks, just needs a little bit more of the, you know, actual grip rather than the maybe offset wheels and stuff like that. But the looks of this one's going to make it hard for me because I really like the way this car looks. But thank you very much for your entry, and now to try and figure out those other two. The last entry we have for this competition is from the Killer Noob, who has a Nash Auto Falcon for us to look at. And keep in mind that this Nash Auto Falcon has no ties to any real car companies. These are all of his own. So styling-wise, we once again have the Datsun body here, but with a nice fresh take on the front end with the squared headlights. And the grills, there's not so much you can do that's unique. I like the little Rallye fog lights at the bottom. And we got a hood scoop on there, a little Rallye hood scoop, if you will. And then what do? We do the back. Square taillights with square taillights inside. It's square taillightception. The back, maybe I'm not as big of a fan of as the front. I see that you were trying to keep the theme of the square fixtures, and you did that, but the proportions of these taillights are just not quite sitting too well with me. And your country must have very, very tiny tags. But I also see some very large tailpipes. So let's look at the performance of this guy. Well, first up, it has a drivability of 12.2, which is quite low, which leads me to believe this is set up for some kind of track application. 33.5 sportiness, so that is the correct kind of value. 6.3 comfort, 31 prestige, leading me to believe that there's a very large V8 under that hood. 34 on safety, high cost, 91.53. In the design, yes, a 5.9 liter. 5.9 liter V8. And it is also flat plane and single overhead cam 32 valve, and has 9.0 compression with four barrel carbs. That is really hard for me to say for some reason. So quite the engine under the hood there. We may have ourselves a bit of a drag car here. It's got McPherson front and semi-trailing arm in the back, which isn't perfectly ideal for that track setup. 3-speed manual, which is aluminum body to keep the weight down. And then on the test track, a 162 top speed, a 15.4 miles, so it must be having issues hooking up at 8.10 to 60. Yeah, definitely having issues hooking up. So this is a car you can go really fast in. It just takes you a while to get it there. 1.13 and 1.09, also a little bit slow in the grip department. Does a 139.37 on the track, which is again a little bit off. Definitely lacking in the grip department. Acceleration wasn't great, the cornering wasn't great, so yeah, the track time being as it is doesn't surprise me. It also doesn't surprise me that Sector 3 seems to be its best area, where it can really, stretch its legs right here. And then let's see how it does in the markets. It is in the hyper and muscle premium category, so it's definitely more to the muscle car side than it is to the track rally kind of side. And it does okay in those categories. It actually does much better than I expected in those categories. Could probably do even better than that if it had some bigger tires on it. If it was able to hook up, it would probably be a really, really good muscle premium and hypercar. And a hypercar in this era, that can be indeed a very high horsepower muscle car. The price on this guy with a markup would be in the range of what the Vector Intrigue would be. However, it is a little bit less car than the Intrigue is. It's much less practical. It's still smaller in, its cabin and whatnot. It's just a very different kind of car. It is something that would probably be fighting the Corvettes and, even the Camaro SS's, the muscle cars of the era, a little bit more than it would be fighting our car. So good style on this car. I like the looks, and you did a good job of, making the body look the part. Unfortunately, the underpinnings may be just a little bit different than what we were looking for this competition. But thank you very much for your entry, and good luck in future competitions, the Killer Noob. So now for the hard part, picking the 3 cars that will move on to the finals, and I have earmarked a couple. Actually, I've earmarked more than I wish I had, because now it's making this choice much harder. However, there was one that I double earmarked and said absolutely goes to the finals, no question about it, and that was the NMC K-Type 500R. This car, I think, although it is, a little bit different body than we may have expected, and it has some unique characteristics versus the Intrigue, it pretty much exactly exemplified the kind of car that I expected you guys to build. It is obviously based off of a car that you guys had produced as a, large-scale, everyday kind of car, and then sent it off to your gearheads in your company to do what they want with it to make it into a cool track car. And this car just did that extremely well, and did extremely well in track premium and track. I really liked the design of the car, and overall, it was a huge hit with me. So this one definitely goes through. So that would have been Aaron Corvette 6317's entry. So that leaves 2 spots, and I have highlighted the cars that I earmarked to possibly make it into those last 2 spots. The Reaver, the Saromies, the Rallye, I like that name, the Rallye, the Madra Edge, and the Griffin Rocket. I really liked all of those entries, and they, in my mind, fit the theme that I was going for. So the decision comes down to which were the cars that seemed like they were best on theme. And the theme being cars that you could produce and then, produce a cool track toy version of. And to me, one of those was definitely going to be the Saromies. I really like the unique take on this. This is a car that could easily, I think, be something that is also street producible, kind of normal producible. It goes up against pretty stiff competition, though. Like I mentioned when I was reviewing this car, going up against the Corvair with this car, it's already kind of a crowded market. It would be really tough. The styling wasn't, I don't think as good as maybe the Corvair, but it had possibly better performance than the Corvair. So pluses and minuses there. But the stats were really good, did really good in the markets. So this one continues on to the finals. The final slot came down to the Griffin Rocket and the Mini Rallye. I really, really liked both of these cars. This is a very cool take on this competition, the front-wheel drive version, and it had, like I said, a unique take on it. It had a very low cost, and it did fit in the spirit of everything. However, it was maybe just a little bit less track-friendly than some of the other entries. The Griffin Rocket, an absolutely beautiful car, probably one of my favorite automation designs, period, even though you didn't do too much crazy with it. It was even lacking some fixtures and some detail. Just, it's a very striking looking car. And then add on to that, it had very good value. It had extremely good market performance. So I think I do have to go with the Griffin Rocket by Zach. Just a fantastic car. Fits in with the spirit. It's kind of competing with the premium coupes, with the Datsun body cars. And it does it with a different chassis, which is cool. It does it at a very good price. Overall, just a fantastic job. Alright, well, hopefully that's the hardest decision I have to make today. But that is it. That is all of the entries to the Vector Automotive Challenge fan build competition. Thank you to everybody who entered. It was very cool, and I enjoyed looking at all of your cars. Everybody did just an awesome job, and I enjoyed the increased participation in this competition. Coming up on Monday, I will be doing a finalist review episode where we will go over how the finalist competition is going to work and going over in a little bit more detail some of the cars, or all of the cars that are in the finals. And after that, we will start the process of picking who the winner is. So thanks everybody for watching, and thanks everybody for participating, and I'll see you on Monday.